In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Good evening or morning, depending on where you are around the globe, in the chat room. Maybe you're on the phone apps. Wherever you are, this is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and I welcome you all to tonight's show. I want to give a quick shout-out right off the bat to our radio affiliates, the Dark Matter Radio Network. Hello to all of you who are listening on Saturday night. To Late Night in the Midlands, K98 Talk, High Point Radio, the top of New Jersey. And they cover New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. And they do it on 100.5 FM and 1700 AM. Our website's www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed. Well, and inform others. Folks, a good one tonight. We've got Chip Reichenthal joining us tonight. He's going to be back on Late Night in the Midlands. We're going to take a few minutes out tonight to talk about Archons because, well, somebody had wrote me extensively on it. So we're going to ask Chip about that. We're also going to discuss things like angels and demons and the other side and whatever else comes up on the paranormal realm and any other. So the call-in number, 803 317-2264. I apologize. I've got 3 numbers sitting here. I've been working on, I'll tell you why this has happened. I've been working on trying to put together a new call-in number, something a little more fancy for the show, and so I've got all these numbers sitting here, and of course, they're not out of sight, so they're not out of mind. But the call-in number is 803-317-2264. I promise you that's the right number, and we'll take calls later on in the show, not right now. Couple things. Art Bell is back. I'll tell you, it's been nice listening to his show. It's just like I remembered it years ago. And wow, Coast not looking good over there in the Coast corner. But that's all I got to say about that. But welcome back, Art Bell, and some news I want to get into tonight. Some, some strange stuff and then some headline stuff. Scream studies could lead to scarier alarms, this says. I don't know about you, but my alarm clock does a good enough job. Researchers have been attempting to better understand the science behind the sound of a human scream. Nobody likes to hear the blood-curdling shriek of somebody else screaming. I know I don't like it, and with good reason. Hearing such a sound can instantly activate the fear response within the human brain, and I laugh because I was just watching a video with my son tonight, and somebody had put a cardboard box over the guy and then start banging on the box while he was sleeping, and there was a lot of screaming, and I don't like screaming. So I go visit my grandkids. When they start screaming, it's time for me to leave. Scientists are studying the human perceptions of screaming, and what they have determined about these screams so far is that when somebody lets off a scream, it is, I guess what they want to do here, folks, is they want to make a better alarm clock for you. So you might have somebody screaming at you when you wake up. This is listed under News and Discovery on LateNightInTheMidlands.com, so feel free to go check it out. They say the findings suggest that the design of alarm signals can be further improved. I remember being a kid and my father sometimes, me not getting up, he's called me several times and I'm still in bed, and then him coming in and yelling to wake me up, and that was the worst. I don't think an alarm clock like that would make it in my home. Not very long anyways. It's been hot here in Columbia, folks. I don't know about the rest of you, but something around 97, 98 all day, and it's felt every degree of it. Just blah. You go outside and it's just miserable. You start melting. That's how it's been here over on the southeast. Director General John Dietrich Warner has outlined his plans for the future of space exploration. The European Space Agency, the head there, proposes a village on the moon. Yeah, they're talking about a village on the moon. So you'll have the moon people. Having only been in charge of the European Space Agency for a week, the former chair of the German Space Agency has already outlined some of his more ambitious plans for the future, and that is a moon village. He says, and that shouldn't just mean some houses and a church and a town hall, but an entire village. That is also linked up under News and Discovery on LateNightInTheMidlands.com should you choose to go check out the full story. They say the Americans are also looking to go to Mars very soon. So, Mars, they want to, there are all these people who volunteered. I wonder if that's actually going to happen. Laura Eisenhower said she thinks it's just kind of a game being played, but I don't know. I believe when she was on the show, she said that, you know, they'll have their nice little Hollywood studios set up and things like that. And, you know, how do we know? I don't know. Just like this next story. How do we know about this? Ghostly figure. And I don't do too many of these stories, but this one I found interesting. I went and checked it out. It's a footage from CCTV, and it's a ghostly figure that shows up. And it's hard to do these things too often nowadays because there's so much fakery out there, and you really have to know what you're looking for and what you're looking at, or you could be fooled so easy. This, I gotta say, I don't know. I don't see anything funny about it. I think it could very well be real. And I know there's that camp out there that everything that's on the internet's gotta be fake. Well, you know, just like there's that camp that everything on the internet's real, right? So, anyways, a video showing a strange shadowy figure moving along a corridor has been uploaded onto the internet. The footage, which is linked up here, it emerged on social media, they said, on Saturday. It was taken by CCTV cameras, which overlooks a rope bridge at the Shipwreck-themed Dreamwater Lounge in Warrington. Now, some are saying, oh, this is just a ploy because, you know, they need to pick up business. And I suppose it could be. But I think this footage is pretty darn interesting. And, I mean, debunk it or not, I mean, I've had ghostly experience, so I know it's real. At least the whole phenomena is real. Is this video real? You'll have to decide for yourself, I guess. In the video, the camera could be seen shaking slightly before a wisp-like figure, which looked to me like some, I don't know, somebody from like maybe the 1800s or something going. It looked pretty old. I mean, you know, one of them old Western type looking ghosts going up the stairs and just kind of floating up the stairs. You don't see like leg movements of the dress going up and down or anything like that. It's just, I think it's a pretty good video. You should go check it out. The owner maintains that the footage does show something unusual. He also believes that someone has tampered with the recordings before uploading it to make it seem more impressive. So, is it real? Is it not? Go check it out yourself and let me know what you think, I guess. But, I don't know. Ghosts are real. Maybe the video's not, but, you know, the phenomena is. Buzz Aldrin, he he kind of shut down some moon landing conspiracy theorists, as they call them here. The astronaut took to Twitter to answer people who believe moon landing was faked. Buzz Aldrin, they say, weighed in on the debate over the moon landing after conspiracy theorists used the 46th anniversary of the event to suggest that it was faked. This Professor Brian Cox was the first to take on the landing deniers, but then soon after, Mr. Aldrin tweeted some pictures of his moonwalk, and he also said, if we didn't go to the moon, don't you think the Russians would call us out on it? You know, so that's linked up too. There's some pictures of their tweets if you're interested. It's all there. Hey, I got a letter, or an email rather, from a listener, and he's actually a moderator in one of our groups on Facebook. And he says here, I'm going to read it to you here because I think it's interesting, going with everything that's going on. He says, I apologize in advance. I didn't have a way to listen live last night, and I can't chat. I wanted to let you and the listeners know about a letter my grandmother received from her apartment manager in North Carolina yesterday. It was a letter asking her and other residents to list emergency contacts for evacuation, specifically in regards to a tsunami. She will be making a copy of the letter for me soon to share, but for now I thought maybe a heads up would be helpful. Andrew, thank you for that email. That was in Wilmington, North Carolina. and I am here in Columbia, South Carolina. So if they know something about a tsunami that I don't, I'd sure like to know about it. So thank you for sharing that, Andrew. And as soon as he gives me a copy of the letter, I will get it posted up on LateNightInTheMidlands.com for everybody. And as a matter of fact, by Saturday, when you hear this on the Dark Matter Radio Network, it'll probably already be up there for you. Chattanooga shooter linked to CIA, FBI, an asset, they say. This comes from good old Prison Planet. Mohammed Yusuf Abdelaziz, the gunman who killed 4 Marines, and a Navy sailor last week in Tennessee, was heavily influenced by Anwar al-Awlaki, a CIA and FBI asset who had denied or been dined at the Pentagon not long after 9/11. So they're saying that this guy had ties with the CIA, he had ties with the FBI. I'm not surprised by it. Not surprised at it at all, because a lot of times these people, they're either on some pharmaceuticals and just out of their minds, and sometimes they're, assets to, they're given these jobs to do, and they think they're doing something right, or they're mind controlled, or whatever it might be. But anyways, it says here links to CIA and FBI. There's a whole bunch here. If you want to go check it out, you can. It's not surprising to me. It's not surprising to me at all that this guy would get linked to him. But, I haven't seen solid evidence yet, but I'm not surprised by it. And this was actually from yesterday, so there might even be more on it today. I haven't checked out the fake news myself. White House lit up in rainbow colors for gay marriage within hours. People are angry about this, and this is why, because it took 5 days to lower the flag for dead Marines. They said here, Obama finally makes the decision after intense criticism. The Obama administration lit up the White House in rainbow colors within hours of the Supreme Court ruling on gay marriage, but it took 5 days for flags to be lowered to half-mast in honor of the 4 murdered Marines in Chattanooga. In fact, the official White House Twitter account still has the rainbow-colored building and its main background image weeks later. President Obama has now ordered flags at the White House and other public buildings to fly at half-staff after mounting criticism over the delay in honoring the 5 armed forces. I'm telling you, this president, I'll tell you what, we're going to have a good paranormal type night here, so I don't want to ruin it and go on any rants, so I'm not going to do that. But, this guy, wow. I mean, does he have anybody working to help him with public image at all? Because they need to be fired if that's the case, because he's not looking good at all either, right down there with coast to coast. So, folks, I'm going to take a break here, and when I come back, I will have my guest, Chip Reichenthal, and he's going to join me to talk about several things on the paranormal realm. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network, on the Dark Matter Radio Network, and maybe on a station near you. We'll be back in just a few moments.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. You've heard Dr. Leonard Horowitz and experts urge you to avoid deadly vaccinations and illegal operators selling stolen OxySilver and OxySilver copycats. You've heard experts tell you about suppression in alternative medicine and confusing propaganda in healthcare and the truth movement. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeolove, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from theCureShop.com. Including OxySilver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol. Electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. OxySilver is covalently bonded to water. Unlike any other silver product using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently body silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. OxySilver works three ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risk. OxySilver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. Buy OxySilver, GI Flora Pro, Green Harvest, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with two P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll-free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you. The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Need your L&M fix? You can find us on social medias everywhere, like our Facebook fan page, Late Night in the Midlands, or our Facebook group, the LNM Radio Network. Our other Facebook groups, The Last Frequency. You can also find LNM on Twitter at LNM Radio, and all of this and more can be found on our website at www.LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Again, that's www.LateNightInTheMidlands.com, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
In many cases is the idea that the aliens are essentially trying to create a hybrid mix of themselves and ourselves. They're interested in our DNA, our genetic makeup. Bodies. And beyond that, they're interested in our personalities, our affection for our children, our love for one another, a whole kind of range of what we think of almost the most human characteristics we have emotionally.
We have to face up to reality that, for example, the UFO phenomenon is a real phenomenon, no question about it. So anybody who debunks the UFO phenomenon itself don't know what he or she's talking about.
Hey, Michael, I promised you I'd call in for a little bit, and here I am.
I know that I bashed Bush the entire time. I wasn't even allowed on Coast to Coast there for a while because I was told not to talk about Bush.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Late Night in the Midlands. We cover everything.
It's the middle of the night and there's nothing much to do. Bring your insomniac self over to Late Night in the Midlands and learn something. We've got every topic you can think of with very little being off limits. Alien abductions, government corruptions, the stuff that's got your sleep disrupted. Come join the conversation tales and tune in to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera.
Is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and before I bring my guest on, I got a couple little things I want to do here first. First off, I want to give you the website again, www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Go on over, become a member, become a late nighter. Very important. Become a late nighter. Folks, without the late nights, and you can listen at your convenience. It's $5 a month. And it's real easy to do. You could just go over to latenightinthe.midlands.com and hit the subscribe tab. It's that simple. I've got some sound clips here that I wanted to share real quick. It's about, one's a minute long, another one a minute long, and a 34-seconder. And these are sounds. This is a NASA release. These are sounds of, one is sounds of Earth from space, sounds of Saturn, the sounds of Jupiter. And, I was listening to them, and my God, it's funny. Earth sounds like it is the most in tune of them all. I mean, Saturn really sounds scary. And so I want to get to that in just a second. And something else, there was some talk in the chat room about the elections. I've got to throw my 2 cents in on it. And, I agree. I think there's been more selection than election, especially in recent years. But, if I was going to have any hope and put my change on anybody, for me, my choice would be Trump. Now, will he get in? Probably not. Nobody I ever want to get in gets in. So, but, I'm having a lot of fun watching him as he says it like it is. I think it's, some people are getting offended by it, and that's the problem in this country. We've become too offended by too much. When people say it like it is, everybody's... But anyways, getting back to this. All right, so let me start out. Here's the sound of Saturn. Listen to this. if there was a hell, folks, if there was a hell, I mean, could we argue that Saturn could be it? I mean, listen to this again real quick. All you need with that is 3 giant heads floating with no bodies, saying, "We are the judge and the jury," you know? That's some spooky stuff over there on Saturn. Now here's Jupiter. Check out Jupiter. So Jupiter making some, to me it sounds like some chapel stuff going on in there. I don't know, like there's some praying or something going on. So that's Jupiter. Now here is Earth. I don't know. To me, Earth sounds, I don't know, it's much different, but here's Earth. That's Earth. Now, Earth really sounds so much in harmony, but it almost sounded, I don't know if you heard it, but it almost sounded like there's a little siren in the background, like a, whoo. Could that be Mother Earth sounding the alarm? It just might be, but other than that, she sounded pretty good. It sounded like you were just close your eyes and it was like you're sailing on the ocean, right? I mean, just fantastic, but then you go to Saturn and Saturn sounds like you've just got teleported onto some evil starship. And, you know, like the Star Trek guys are about to come out or something. That's what that sounds like. But all right, enough of that. Let me tell you a little bit about my guest tonight because I am over time. I don't know, I get fascinated with stuff like that. Chip Reichenthal has been fascinated by afterlife sciences, metaphysics, and paranormal realms for several years, following an encounter with his best friend at the moment of the friend's death. Chip's fascination of the unknown adds to other works in progress. Chip hosts online radio shows, and one of them is right there on the Dark Matter Radio Network, right along there with mine. So let's bring Chip on. He's been on Late Night in the Midlands in the past, and he's coming back on again. Let me get him on here. He's been waiting. Mr. Chip Reichenthal, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. You know, it's been a long time, and this is a beautiful thing. I love it when we get together. It's certainly a lot more jovial than the sounds of Saturn.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, did you hear that? I mean, don't Saturn, I mean, if there was a hell, wouldn't it sound like that would be it?
That's what I'm thinking. And, you know, the funny thing is, I mean, Saturn and Jupiter, really, both gas giants, and both with, you know, storms that last practical eternity, you know, and you would think that there would be a little bit more similarity in sound between the two of them. But, yeah, I got to agree with you. Saturn sounds a lot more hellish.
Yeah, it did. It sounded like, you know, a long time ago, Art Bell played, it was supposed to be The Devil's Hole or something like that, with the sounds of hell. That's what it was. Yeah. And I'll tell you, it sounded a lot like it.
It really did. Yeah, and that's, you know, that's kind of a current event right now, the Art Bell thing.
Yeah, it sure is. It's hitting pretty big too, and you know, it's great to be, you know, on the network and be any part of it. So,
yeah, true. You know, I was fortunate. My show on Dark Matter Radio is Monday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, and his show starts at midnight. So I was kind of a lead-in for him.
Oh, nice.
With that said, I don't think that really made that much. I think people tuned in closer to midnight than they did closer to 8, you know. But yeah. It is what it is. I'll be okay, you know.
Yeah, it is. Hey, you know, it's fun. Like he says, want to take a ride, and it's certainly a ride. So, so you know, Chip, I know we were going to get into a few different areas tonight, and one of them I know you probably dread to even get into, but I had a gentleman who wrote me an email. It was pretty lengthy. I shared them with you, and he had spoke about these Archons. I think I'm saying it right? Archons?
Yes,
that's
Archons,
what they are.
Yep.
And he says that they, you know, he calls them entities, but he says who knows for sure. He thinks that they could be reptilians or gray aliens. He personally believes that Archons are the reptilians. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Archons, so I was going to ask you to fill me in a little bit here tonight.
Well, I can fill you in a little bit.
Okay.
Because, look, the origin of Archon goes back to basically the beginning of civilization, just about, you know, especially ancient Greece and some parts of ancient Egypt and Rome. It basically stood for anybody that was in a position to lead. You know, we could call our president an archon or a governor or something of that sort. People that were in charge of government or finance or even churches back in the day were considered archons, and it kind of evolved from there. I think what the person who posed the question really kind of had more to do with the Gnostic term for an archon. And the Gnostics, again, going back between 2,000 and 4,000 years ago, there was even some talk in some of the lost Gospels, the Book of Judas, one of the Gospels that were recovered, I think, in Nag Hammadi, Egypt. There was Judas and Jesus were best friends, and in the Book of Judas, in this lost Gospel, and they were both Gnostic. And for that time, what that meant was they kind of understood the afterlife and kind of a universal or spiritual kingdom, kind of in a very similar way. And I don't want to sound sacrilegious here, right. I'm just kind of telling you, almost like psychic mediums of this day and age. You know, very similar, really. Gnostic was really a word for knowing. They were mystics, you know, back in ancient times. And because of their friendship, and it was so valuable, it was kind of a plan that he promised his buddy Judas that if he kind of took a dive, in essence, for Jesus and turned him in, because Jesus was meant to be in spirit, and it was time to return, I guess, and get out of that human form. So Judas was doing Jesus a favor by turning him in, and Jesus promised Judas that he would be the brightest star that shined in the heavens for doing that. So it was something that they were in cahoots on. It was Judas really sacrificing to do his best friend a favor in all this, and it was a very different take on things. Plus, they were both Gnostics. They were, in essence, psychics. But in Gnosticism, Archons were kind of a very early explanation for extraterrestrials, and they were two different kinds of Gnostic Archons, and they are very similar in description to the Greys and Reptilians that we have come to know today. So a lot of what the person who sent us these emails was alluding to had a lot to do with that.
And that's kind of what I gathered out of it. It seemed like, kind of a religious type look at these things. I've had folks who, were hardcore religious folks who would say that demons or aliens were fallen angels. They were demons. So, he seems to think also that they could be shadow people or associated with the shadow people. Now, I don't know. Has anybody been able to ever get any kind of, credible information on maybe what a shadow person is? If they, are they ghostly? Are they extraterrestrial?
Well, it depends on what you term credible, I suppose. Interestingly enough, it was just a few weeks ago I had on as a guest Amy Allen from the Travel Channel TV show The Dead Files.
Oh, yeah.
Spirit medium. And she is really different from most of the mediums that I know, in that she has really kind of mastered the darker side of that realm. And I had the really good fortune of meeting her and spending a good hour and a half of valued time with her. She let me give her a tarot reading. So we really got some deep talk in. But in addition to that, and as well as the show, look, I'm a love and light guy, and I do have a past in mediumship, but I was more the kind of bridging a gap between the living and the dead, the living that missed their dead and the dead that missed their living, and I was holding them together, and it was a very love and light type of thing. And I asked if she ever gave readings, as a medium. She was, whereas I would see or hear these dead basically in the kind of the third eye, the theater of my mind. In other words, if I were to say, okay, close your eyes and visualize a beach, but as you visualize the beach, smell the salt air, the sea air, feel the wind on your face and the heat from the sun, this type of thing. It's kind of a creative visualization where you visualize that beach is the same place that I would see these dead, but she would see them, and she started seeing them right around the age of 5. And she works with a lot of these, they work some of the most malevolent hauntings, if you could call it that, in the country, if not the world, because they have traveled outside of the U.S. too in order to help people. And because I'm a hopeless romantic, I guess, and always really hope to see a lighter side or a more loving side of these realms, kind of makes me a great minority in the paranormal and metaphysical well, mostly paranormal, I guess. But because she really had been talking with dead people and seeing them since she was like 5 years old. You know, when she does readings for people, she tells it like it is. So if the dead would say, you know, boy, I really hate your choice of mate, you know, she would tell them that, you know. She said, well, your stepmother told me that she hates your husband. You know, she's not going to hold stuff back, whereas I might tailor my words a little bit more carefully than that. So she really doesn't like to do readings in that sense, and she's not a love and light person. It doesn't mean that she's nasty and negative. But because she has really specialized in kind of the more malevolent side of things, or at least the darker side of things, and it's a very rare specialty, especially in mediumship. I did ask her what she thought about evil, good and evil.
Yeah.
Because we had talked with some of the, well, you and I had talked about this too, but some of my former guests insist and brought up a very good point. There's no good and evil in an animal kingdom. There's no good and evil in a plant kingdom. Some of the people that have had experiences with extraterrestrials insist that there's no good and evil in an extraterrestrial kingdom. It's almost more of an insect type of mentality. In the case of a reptilian, it's a primal brain. I mean, we do have the stem, the brain stem, the core of our brain is reptilian first. And then once you get to the cerebral cortex, you start to have choices between following this primal base. But a reptilian brain, a primal brain, is they eat whatever they want whenever they want. They have sex with whatever they want whenever they want. You know, it's that type of thing. So people that are thought to be sociopathic, for example, serial killers or serial rapists, perhaps have a more profound use of that primal brain, you know, and there are parts of the cerebral cortex that kind of shut down a little bit in their case. But does it make them evil? Well, that's a question. But when some of the, oftentimes she will see these shadow people in cases, and a lot of times she will express it as it's some dead person that is really wallowing in self-loathing, self-pity. They're despondent, sad, angry, whatever, and so the youth, they'll use shadows to scare the living because they want the living to hurt the same way that they hurt, you know. But does that make them evil is the question. And I did pose it, you know, in a sense that, I mean, she knows me well enough to know that, you know, angels are a big part of my process, and I'm very big on, you know, trying to represent the dead in a kind light. I have never, in 30 plus years working in paranormal, ever had a malevolent encounter, ever. I've seen people get scratched right in front of me, you know.
Yeah,
never had a bad EVP, never had anything like that.
And I wouldn't call a shadow person, you know, seeing something like that evil, because it's not doing anything but scaring you. But I would.
Here's the thing, and I don't mean to cut you off, especially
okay,
since you're the host, but yeah, I'm old, so I have to get this thought out before I have a senior moment. But, you know, the writer expressed some of the things about Archons where I guess the question was, with his experience and his beliefs and his perceptions, beliefs and perceptions are, for a lot of folks, one and the same. Archons kind of act very similar in his description anyway as some sort of malevolent entity would. They will deceive. They will like a wolf in sheep's clothing, you know, and it's kind of similar to a curse, or if you believe the worst in people, or if you believe the worst in spirits, then that's what you will get out of it. Is there a curse without a belief in a curse? It's kind of along those same lines. This gentleman made a very, very good case, and his belief, I think, really falls along those lines. And whatever these archons throw at you, whether demons or angels or whatever, are designed to deceive, designed to frighten. It kind of acts. There's a thing in. I worked with schizophrenics a lot. There's a thing with schizophrenia in a lot of cases called a lower order hallucination, which is like, let's say, I don't know, if you, some people might take ayahuasca or LSD or some sort of hallucinogen, and maybe they'll see Bugs Bunny on the wall, but they pretty much know that Bugs Bunny isn't there. That's called a false hallucination, a pseudo hallucination. But in a lot of times in some psychotic disorders, a lower order hallucination would be, let's use Bugs Bunny, that example. Well, let's say I'm a schizophrenic and I'm sitting on a bus and I'm having an episode, and I see Bugs Bunny. Except I believe that Bugs Bunny is actually there, and Bugs Bunny is talking to me, and we are having a dialogue, and in my mind and my perception, I absolutely believe this. But Bugs Bunny will say, see that woman in front of you? I dare you to grab her breasts. Go ahead. And it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. What are you, chicken? And here's the thing. If I finally cave in, because this Bugs Bunny will really hound me until I succumb, Oh, what are you, chicken? Come on, what are you some sort of man? You're supposed to be a man, right? Can't do that for me. So let's say I finally succumb and I grab the breast of the woman on the bus in front, and I'll say, what an idiot you are. There is no winning. You see what I mean? So it kind of, this writer gives kind of a similar weight or a similar description of these archons than I would a lower order hallucination and a psychotic. And I don't want to use the term disorder. Look, I worked with schizophrenics for a long time. I've got a family member that's schizophrenic. I went to college and studied psychology and went to the graduate library from freshman year on because and it was a long time ago, in the mid-'70s, but I wanted to cure this family member. So I really did a lot of research on schizophrenia, psychotic disorders, psychopathology, that sort of thing. And when I worked with, I taught computer skills and vocational skills to schizophrenics in a nonprofit setting. That's the most recent thing that I did with that. And it wasn't really all that long ago. And I had a lot of students. I was a very popular teacher, and I loved my students, And we had an understanding because I didn't see them differently. Because at the same time, I was having some success as a spirit medium. So in what world is it fair that I am talking to dead people? The majority of people, I think, would not believe in that sort of thing, especially anyone that is that subscribes to some of the most popular religions, in organized religion.
I do believe in it. I believe in it strongly. I don't think that everybody who says they can do it, but I think that there are real people that can communicate. I know because I communicated and I didn't try. It just happened.
Right. But here's I've got students that see and hear things that aren't there, and they're hospitalized for it, and I think some of my students were treated very unfairly in this mental health system. I mean, there were nights where I would get home and I would tear up a little bit thinking of the stigmas against these poor, sweet people are just horrid. You know, people fear what they don't understand, and they would act out on those fears. You know, attributing absolute worst kind of presuppositions with schizophrenics, when for the most part they're quite harmless. I think psychopaths and sociopaths have a tendency to be much more harmful. But again, the question is, you know, I'm talking to dead people, seeing and hearing things that aren't there, and nobody was hospitalizing me.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, there's a lot of gray areas in a mental disorder.
Well, Chip, you know, you didn't tell the right people. If you told the right people, they probably would have tried to hospitalize you.
Well, actually, my boss knew, and look, I also had a chronic pain condition back then. You know, it's almost 20 years now, but I even back then, and because it was a nonprofit setting, and I was a teacher. I would have gotten in a lot of trouble if I had showed the extent of pain. I mean, some days I was in so much pain that I would have to go into my boss's office to cry because I couldn't do it in front of the students, you know. And you have to, for that job and for that setting, be very even-keeled. But I did question. I don't think irony is the right word, but it's a little bit unfair. And who's to say that if I had admitted seeing and speaking with dead people to the wrong person, that I wouldn't be treated any differently than my students? You know.
True.
So there's a lot of things that go into that. Why I brought up schizophrenia, I don't know, aside from pointing out that the writer's description of an Archon in his writings and his beliefs about these Archons, he attributed an awful lot of power and negativity to these Archons.
He did, yes.
You know, insisting that the afterlife is, I mean, once you die and you get to whatever, St. Peter's Gate or heaven or let's just say the afterlife. That's where, you know, Archons still have an awful lot of say and control about your afterlife as well as your life, you know. And I can't. I'm just such a hopeless romantic, I guess. I will be a love and light guy, and I'll kick and scream. I'll go down kicking and screaming.
Oh, me too. You know, and one of the things I found troubling, I guess myself, was that he had mentioned that and there's a lot of people who believe this. I've had him tell me this, not just this guy, but plenty who have said that, oh, if you get a visitation from your mother from the other side, oh, that was a demon pretending to be, you know.
I think it was an Archon that had, I think, malevolent intentions.
Right.
And demons and angels will also be the same thing. Archon. Anything that you see that has to do with the spirit world or extraterrestrials or the dead or spirits or ghosts, angels, demons, any of that, ultimately begins and ends with the Archon. And look, do I know differently? No, I really don't. You know, I will respectfully disagree with some of what this writer says, but I'm not going to call him wrong because I don't know any better or worse than anybody else about this.
At the same time, these others can't call you or I wrong either because they don't know either. And anybody who says that they know for sure, is whistling some Dixie. Now, all I can say is that when I had my visitation from the other side, my mother told me that there is a God, and I don't see any demon coming over and assuring me that there's a God. So,
yeah. Well, I think the best way I could possibly put this, because again, I'm not going to call this guy wrong. He made a very, very good case, and it was very compelling through and through. It's just I would have to give up my pursuit of seeing the best in the living, seeing the best in the dead, seeing the best in life and in afterlife, in order to give any power to the negative attributes that and the power that he gives to these archons. Let's just I want to make a better example. A buddy of mine, an actor buddy. He was in Sharknado 2. I just saw him a couple hours ago in it. But anyway, he sent me this whole thing about how demons can come to you in meditation. If you meditate, you're really making yourself vulnerable and opening yourself up to evil. And I wanted to slap this kid, because look, and I'm sure if he believes that, it will probably happen for him a lot sooner than it would happen for me if I don't believe it, is really what I'm saying. But meditation is really a very therapeutic thing. It's very cathartic. It's very good for anybody who wants to do psychic practice or counsel, It's designed to strengthen your health, mental, physical, spiritual, ethereal, all of that. So to scare people out of it by insisting that if you meditate, you make yourself vulnerable to evil, that I will vehemently disagree with, and that I will snarkily say, are you kidding me, whereas we're talking about archons, and I haven't had experiences personally with archons, but and this dates all the way back to the Gnostics in ancient times, and could very well be linked in to the Greys and reptilians, because it's fascinating that they were talking about those things, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, but I will say that if you look to anything, to spirituality, to archons, to extraterrestrials, to the paranormal, the metaphysical, anything, with an expectation of malice or evil that will be trialed upon you, then you're more likely to see that happen. So I hope to talk the people out of looking at anything with an expectation of malice or evil.
And I think there's a fine line, I guess. For me, I think evil is kind of I want to call it a human thing, but
well, it is. It's a man-made concept.
It is, but then when you hear stories from guys like Bill Bean who talk about these demons that tormented his family for 10 years, I mean, just making horrible things happen, possessing, the father, or a child waking up and seeing this figure of an undertaker at the end of the bed, that could be considered, just mischief, but I don't know.
Well, it could, but at the same time, you look at somebody like Bill Bean now, and he's actually doing a lot of good.
He is.
He's actually making a difference in people's lives. He is looked upon as an expert in the realms, and without any of that happening to his family, he would not have that kind of intimate knowledge of it.
That's
and
true.
People are more apt to listen to a Bill Bean in a lecture setting than they would Chip Reichenthal in a lecture setting, because people kind of almost want that fear element in their paranormal, in their spirituality. It's kind of an adrenaline rush or an excitement of some kind, or goes along the lines of things that we've all been told since we were very young,
Yeah, and that's true. People do look for the fear factor in a lot of things. Speaking of fear factor, let me jump off this topic for a moment and hit something else. Now, it's said that so I've been hearing, anyways, through the grapevine about some sort of asteroid that's supposed to be heading for the planet in September or October of this year. Now, I heard, I thought it was like some kind of before it's news type stuff, but I'm finding out that it might not be. I don't know. What do you know?
Well,
anything about
I
it?
also thought that they had dismissed it once they had brought it up. It seems its trajectory won't bring it nearly as close to the planet as they thought. But then again, things could go wrong.
Well, Chip, at the beginning of the show, I have a gentleman who moderates one of our groups, and his grandmother, who lives in North Carolina, and this could be standard now, I don't know, but this is the first I've heard about it. They had to fill out some evacuation type papers in preparation for a tsunami. I have it here, and I could.
Wow.
Yeah,
first I've heard of it too.
Yeah,
I mean, look, they've been talking about an asteroid that is, kind of going to brush with us. It's going to come uncomfortably near the planet.
Right.
But they've been looking at this thing for over a year and a half now, and the majority of cosmologists insist that it's going to miss us.
Well, here's what he says. He says, I wanted to let you and the listeners know about a letter my grandmother received from her apartment manager in Wilmington, North Carolina yesterday. It was a letter asking her and other residents to list emergency contacts for evacuations specifically in regards to a tsunami. And so that's what he told me. And I've never heard of anything like that before, but,
Well, look, I will at least admit to this. I mean, I know that it's El Nino season again. I mean, this will be the first El Nino type of year in about 8 or 9 at least. And it really does affect a lot of coastal cities in the mid to lower south, on the East Coast and in the Gulf and on the West Coast, but mostly on the West. It helps explain some of the drought that California had until recently. I guess they just had torrential downpours a couple of days ago. That's just not going to make it so everybody can drink all of a sudden, but still, and there are some talks about a worst case scenario types of preparations in those kinds of communities.
And I'll tell you what else. What I've been thinking is it's been so dry there, right? Watch it start raining and raining and raining, and all of a sudden it's going to set off a big one.
Yeah.
I worry about that.
Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of things aside from asteroids that could explain Grandma's apartment complex, having to fill out tsunami forms.
Right.
Right. And hey, then again, but I mean, I've been, I look at all the space news and stuff, it doesn't mean I have access to every single article that comes in, but it just seems to me, and I could be wrong again, that any talk of an asteroid, coming uncomfortably close to the Earth, has kind of been shot down.
Okay.
As far as I know.
And these things usually are shut down. And I always said, I think that if it was going to hit us, I really don't think they'd tell us. Some think they would. I don't think they would. And I could see kind of why they wouldn't in a sense.
Oh, sure.
And I know people
get panicky.
People get mad when you say that, but put yourself, in their shoes. They want to run and they want to live in their bunkers or whatever, and if they tell us, well, they're probably never going to make it there, right? So,
well, I mean, I have a lot of friends that are doomsday prepper types, and they have radar for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe they came across a story that I haven't seen, but I mean, I've been reading up on it. I'll take another look, I guess. But as far as I know, that we don't have any brushes with asteroids. That anybody says, okay, well, the trajectory, it's gonna make contact, or it's going to, affect the coastal tides, or anything like that. But El Nino, on the other hand, which has nothing to do with an asteroid, would.
Yeah, and our weather, Chip, has just gotten crazy. And, we talk about the other side. And, I would think more people would take an interest in this, because the way things are going on this ship, we all might be just a little closer to that other side than we think.
Yeah. Well, I did. I have a friend of mine runs a company called Time Stream Pictures, and they do documentaries about extraterrestrials, and he would probably have a better take on this whole Archon thing than I would.
Yeah.
But he'd insisted that as early as January of next year, they're going to start talking about open disclosure, according to him.
I've heard a lot about this too, that there's going to be disclosure. And for me, I always say, I'm not waiting for the government no more. I already know we're not alone.
Can't really. It doesn't help that Stephen Hawking, just 2 days ago, and a Russian billionaire have teamed up to really amp up the search for extraterrestrial life.
Now, isn't this the same guy who just came out not long ago and says that it would be a mistake to make?
Yes.
Contact?
Well, yeah, but at the same time, and he didn't change his phrasing at all. But I think a lot of reporters that have been covering this, the most recent thing with him and this Russian billionaire, really amping up the search. What he really said is we shouldn't be sending a welcome card. We've got some satellites that have a time capsule of human life, and some diagrams of where we're located, what people look like, and some pop culture items from like the 50s and 60s that we sent out on this. I don't know if it was Voyager or Hubble or what, but at least one satellite has, something like that. So if somebody finds this satellite, they can see where it came from. And what Hawking said is that's not a smart idea, because if we send a welcome mat out to an extraterrestrial race, especially one that is much smarter and older and grander than us, that's not necessarily a smart idea, because we're basically telling them this is where you can find us. We have a whole planet here for you. With gold and platinum and minerals and, riches of all kinds. Come on down, and he hasn't changed his tune on that. But he does see, all the progress that is made. It was, like 40, 50 years ago, they just, we learned for the very first time that, we thought the Milky Way galaxy was the universe. Back then,
yeah,
and now we know that there are billions of other galaxies, and planetary systems, solar systems. Trillions potentially, and so there's bound to be exoplanets, Earth-like planets in different systems, different solar systems, different galaxies. And sending them an invitation and saying, hey, if your planet is getting too close to its star and you see the writing on the wall, well, we've got one, and we've still got, at least a good million years before anything really hits the fan. So come on down. And I think he makes a good point there.
Well, I think he does too, and finding them rather than them finding us, probably a good idea. However, I think that personally, I think that there's life right within our solar system here. I think that it's nearby because we get visited an awful lot. I do. I think it's nearby, and NASA, I think they know a lot more than they're telling us, and sure. Sure they do. Yeah, I know, but I think that as far as the secret space program, I've always been on board with that too. But I don't know how extensive. I don't know if we're making contact with these ETs. Some say yes. I personally don't know. I've never seen any solid evidence of that.
Yeah, and me neither. And look, I have friends that are renowned cosmologists. My father's best friend, and this is how I have come to know many of these people, was Ralph Alpher. He was one of the most instrumental people on the Big Bang Theory. It was his doctoral thesis, and the guy that he worked with, both in his schooling and afterwards when he worked at on Knowles Atomic Power Laboratories. Here in the Greater Albany, New York area, back when he was still alive, anyway, was the guy that really set it all in motion. So my father's best friend really came up with the Big Bang Theory, saw it through, spent his entire adult life, working it to fruition. And the irony is, it was a couple of weather guys that were working for Bell Laboratories, and they kind of solved the Big Bang by accident, because they were trying to find areas of space that would be good for satellites. And they kept getting this interference signal when they were listening. Just like, you played some footage of the sounds of Saturn and Jupiter. They were just listening to the upper atmosphere, the ionosphere, and they kept getting this constant static, and they thought something was wrong with their computers. And, Bell Labs was working with, the biggest mainstream computer companies of their kind before there was a Microsoft, and this was, again, a long time ago. But it turns out that it ultimately was this static that these guys kept getting was the cosmic radiation background, which basically was this microwave transmission, like a radio transmission, that it's the sound of the universe, basically, from the beginning of time onward. And it proved the Big Bang. So these guys, by accident, solved it. And they got the Nobel Prize, and they got all the glory. Whereas it was my dad's best friend that spent his whole life working on this, and got like kind of an asterisk by his name. Almost killed him. Literally. But because I know him, it's easier to get an in with some of the bigger cosmologists out there, because they know who Ralph Alpher is. And they go, really? Oh, yeah, he was at my wedding. Really? Yeah. I got stories I could tell you, But these cosmologists, see, the thing is, and another reason why I'm almost reticent to think that NASA really knows a lot more than they're saying is because they remind me of these cosmologists, because they haven't seen any evidence of extraterrestrial life firsthand. They won't accept that it exists, until somebody proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is some sort of extraterrestrial life, whether it's microbial or humanoid, they're not buying into it. They're not biting the apple. And I think, look, shadow government, maybe, that I could see. Or kind of like, you pay certain corporations to sneak behind the government's back to find out some things. That I could buy into. But physicists, cosmologists, astronomers, I'm not buying into it, because all the ones that I know, think it's a bunch of hooey until it's proven in a laboratory. So even though, we strap these test tubes of bacterium, outside the space station as it flies around, and gets pelted by cosmic waves and radiation and the vacuum of space, and still survives. It's very telling that microbial life could potentially thrive out there at very least. And if there's microbial life, then there could ultimately be kind of more advanced life.
Yeah, and I'm willing to bet that there is. I really do. I think there's plenty of it, and I think they've been conditioning us for for this disclosure, if you will.
Oh yeah,
I think big time. Have you seen the photos of Pluto? What do you think about those?
I think it's fast.
Oh, I think we're losing you, Chip. Yeah, your Skype's. I think your Skype. You're still there, but I'm not here. Oh, yeah, it says you're having a internet connection problem. So this is probably a good time for us to take a break. So why don't we do that? We'll take our break. I'll put Chip on hold here, and hopefully he'll come back, and we'll continue this conversation. And, well, it's not even going to let me put it on hold now, is it? Well, that's okay. We'll get by. All right, so, folks, this is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be back in just a few minutes. Folks, don't go anywhere. Want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means inform others. Folks, we're not your average radio show. We cover everything. Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network. LNM is always looking for sponsors, so if you are interested in sponsorship or advertisement on air or on our website, contact us at mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com. If you're interested in rebroadcasting or picking up the live feed for Late Night in the Midlands, then contact us at mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com and help us help you.
Hi, I'm Joshua Vera, and I wanted to inform you that Late Night in the Midlands is offering limited on-air advertisement. With 30 and 60-second spots available, or inquire about placing your banner ad on the LNM website. Or go ahead and package a deal, but either way, get the attention you deserve and join the LNM family. Contact us at mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com. Again, that email is mv@latenightinthe.midlands.com.
Need your L&M fix? You can find us on social medias everywhere, like our Facebook fan page, Late Night in the Midlands, or our Facebook group, the LNM Radio Network. Our other Facebook groups, The Last Frequency. You can also find LNM on Twitter at LNM Radio, and all of this and more can be found on our website at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Again, that's www.latenightinthe.midlands.com, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
For 15 years, I've been obsessed to find out what was going on inside of him. It's been my life work and my ultimate failure. This force, this thing that lived inside of him came from a source too violent, too deadly for you to imagine. It grew inside him, contaminating his soul. It was pure evil.
Imagine, if you will, a man, a media, speaking the truth. Imagine a show that covers UFOs, ET races, the paranormal, and the not-so-normal. A media that speaks the truth no matter who or what it leads to. Imagine, if you will, a media that covers everything. Folks, you just entered the LNM zone. LNM, keeping it real when others don't.
It's the middle of the night and there's nothing much to do. Bring your insomniac self over to Late Night in the Midlands and learn something. We've got every topic you can think of and very little being off limits. Alien abductions, government corruptions, the stuff that's got your sleep disrupted. Come join the conversation tales and tune in to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera.
Such a fantastic job with that one, and so we kind of let it run a little longer. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and we're going to get Chip back on the line here with us. He had some Skype failure over there, so but we've got it resolved, and we'll bring him back. The website, www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Become a member. Be informed. Inform others. Become a late nighter. Without the late nights, you can now subscribe, become a late nighter here for Late Night in the Midlands, and we'll give you access to the archives. And folks, we're going to start getting some videos done here in the next couple of weeks too. That will also be in the website for our subscribers, and not all of it. Some of it will be open to all, but then there'll be some special videos, so special interview videos that we'll do just for our subscribers, because that's how much we appreciate them, because they keep us here, they keep us on the air. Speaking of which, folks, we could use donations. We haven't got that many subscriptions yet where we could survive. We need you, so please help us out. We're not even close yet, so we definitely could use you, and you could help out by donating or subscribing over at latenightinthemidlands.com. So let's get Chip Reichenthal back on the line with us, and I've got More questions. Good evening, Chip. You're back with us.
Yes, I'm back. That might have been me. I don't know.
Yeah, a little message came up, and it said that your internet connection had failed. And
Oh, okay. So it was me then.
Yeah, well, it could have been E.T. He didn't like where you were going.
I know, right?
Yeah, he might have zapped you.
Yeah, or Archons.
Archons could have been behind it, too, and some might say that they were. Somebody asked, what would you call it then? Because we were talking about we don't really look at evil as evil like that, to a degree. And so somebody said, "Oh, what do you call it then when somebody is only an observer in their body, when they have no control of what's going on? They're basically a prisoner in their own body." Would that? I mean, I know that there's some medical terms that could go with that. I'm not trying to be funny. But then there is this paranormal realm that could have some of the same symptoms. And sometimes it's hard to determine, which hand that's in.
Yeah, and I don't know what I would call it per se, because, look, everything is specific to its situation. And so I don't know where these people were when they had these sorts of things happen to them. I will say, though, we were talking about Amy Allen earlier during the show here, and she had a very interesting way of putting it, because I asked, do you think these things are evil per se? And she said, well, look, if taking into consideration if there's no good and evil in a plant or animal kingdom, or in the universe and stars and planets and nebula and such, there are parasites in nature. And she said, some of these malevolent things that go out of their way to torment the living in a particular malevolent haunting situation are parasitic in nature, because they want others to feel their pain, feel their misery, to identify with it. If I have to feel like this, then everybody's going to feel like that. Right. As far as any possession type of things, I really don't know. Yeah, I've never been possessed, and I've never really encountered evil. I mean, the living I have, I think, but even then, you get some really nasty living people, and likely they've done something good at one point or another in their lives. I think.
Yeah, well, I know some.
But communicating with murderers, for example, in a medium setting. And I've had the opportunity to do that, and paranormal setting too, murder victims and murderers. But look, I went to high school with a couple of kids that grew up and killed people as they got older. But when I knew them, they were funny, they were lively, they would help little old ladies cross the street when we were kids. I mean, these were not bad people. And one of them, I had a buddy of mine that ended up, he did a murder-suicide, a very bad divorce type of thing. If I can't have the kids, nobody has the kids. So he killed the wife and kids, and then himself. Is that evil? Well, look, in a court of law is a different thing. If I am asked to judge people for legal purposes, then I might look at things a little bit differently. But again, hopeless optimist, and I think that some of the murderers that I have communicated with in either a paranormal or medium setting didn't do anything nasty to me, because I didn't treat them like they were forever judged for something, one act that they did above all other acts. And granted, it's the worst of all crimes, really. But there are gray areas in life. It's just not all black and white.
Now I believe that, people snap. It happens. People, they snap and do things that they later probably wish they never did. But at the same time, there are some people who swear up and down that something forced them to do it. And some will say, well, the devil made me do it. But nevertheless, they're believing that this happened. And should we take any consideration at all that possibly there is some force out there that's forcing people to do horrible things like this?
Oh, I'm certain that there is, but it's not. I mean, there are a lot of people that work as demonologists or exorcists or experts in that sort of thing. And even though I have had opportunities to talk to both living and dead people that have killed people, or just really live to make other people miserable. I don't know. It's just not what I personally represent. So there are people you can ask about that sort of thing to get an answer. But I will again say there is no curse in my mind without a belief in a curse.
I would agree with that totally. I think what makes something like that work is your belief in it.
Yeah, and look, I don't think there are a lot of people that think along the lines that I think upon, and I think that that's they'll have to drag me kicking and screaming in order to stop talking about positive aspects of darker realms, because there are good and bad sides to everything, and nobody's really looking at the good side in a haunting situation, But I want to be the guy that insists that, look, if you treat them like people, then they will treat you like people.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I guess it's fair to say that, a haunting just means that, these are no different than people who need help, I guess, right?
Yeah, but there's also a buddy of mine, Mark Keyes, has a book called Chasing Shadows. And here's a guy who's a state trooper in Pennsylvania, a detective with the Pennsylvania State Police, a guy who sees the worst side of living people day in and day out, and has seen things on a daily basis that would just crush me, and in his spare time he's got some other people in law enforcement, some on the federal level, on the state level, on the local level, buddies of his, and they work malevolent hauntings, but they work these like a crime scene. And he has something in his book called Chasing Shadows, Mark Keyes, Keyes. I will plug his book. It's a very good book. That he calls the ghost factor, which is that even if he is asked to come to a place, a family whose normal everyday home life has kind of been turned upside down by what they seem to attribute to a paranormal setting, once somebody says, I got a bad feeling about this room, then from that point on, it kind of poisons the well, and everything that happens, if there's a breeze that comes in the window, the ghost did it, if a mosquito lands on there, a ghost touched me.
Oh, yeah.
So you can give a lot of power to something, especially if your preconceptions and your belief systems give it that power. So, it's easy to read into situations that aren't necessarily happening.
Yeah, it's just like people who will say, if you do this or you do that, God's going to punish you, or this or that happens, and then things start happening because you start thinking in your mind, I did something bad, and so yeah, but the person who is, and I'm not saying that that's a curse, but somebody who puts a curse on somebody, I think they strongly believe that it's going to work, and of course, the goal is to get the other person to believe it's going to work. And and when you do that, you've got an excellent combination of somebody spilling their own luck.
Yeah, and I, at the same time, I can't be completely dismissive of it, because I've seen people get scratched in a paranormal situation right in front of me, and I've seen it happen 3 times. One time, it was a kid who wanted attention, and we found out well after the fact that he actually had scratched himself, so he could stand out on that evening. Kind of a Munchausen syndrome by proxy type of thing, doing something negative in order to get some sort of positive attention. And the other 2 times, these people had started having a dialogue with something in the room. I don't know if it was like a flashlight setting or a flashlight session or whatever. And they broke their attention from whomever they were talking to focus on their equipment or go to another area of the house or whatever. And I don't think the spirit was done with them yet. And kind of it was their way of saying, hey, I'm still here. And they just didn't know their own strength. It wasn't a scratch that was done in malice. It was almost the opposite, because there was this very positive feeling when we were having this dialogue with this whatever it could be, and because we broke away from that and they weren't quite done with that good feeling of talking to living people, they wanted to get that back, and I think they just kind of overreached and maybe didn't know their own strength. It wasn't intended maliciously, and that's the whole point. And I think that if somebody gets scratched, it's very easy to say, oh my God, that's something bad, that's something demonic, that's something evil, and there are a lot of people that work on the negative side of these things.
Hey, maybe the ghost has a cat.
Yeah, maybe.
You never know. Might have met up with his pet.
That. Yeah, but and at the same time, I don't want to create some sort of irresponsibility by having everybody say, okay, well, Chip says there's no such thing as evil, so let's go push some stuff around and see what happens. No, but I do think that, look, let me use this as an example because I think that this will at least make more sense. If you and I are hanging out, Michael, and let's say a buddy of ours, let's say Ira Robinson or Ryan Blank, we come across them and they're like ferociously angry for one reason or another, and if we take them in that anger state and make fun of them or discount the validity of their anger or whatever, it's going to feed it a little bit. But if we say, hey, man, what happened? Can I help? Is there something we can do? We don't want to see you angry. That's not fair. You're a good person, man. We love you, Let us cheer you up. Then it will offset that anger a little bit. I think that people, living or dead, will generally treat as they are treated. So if you come into somebody's house and that is, let's say there's a rumor that there's a ghost in a place, and the ghost of this person, they died in this home. It was theirs. They built it from the ground up with their own blood, sweat, and tears in the 1890s and died on the property. And they are thought to still be there. But if we come into that house and we say, oh, it's probably some maniac or killer, and, I don't like what they did to the house anyway. It was an ugly house, so I'm going to remodel everything. I'm going to tear some walls down. I'm going to make this place my own. Maybe you'll get some negative activity. It could simply be that this guy's a little angry that you're tearing his house down that he built from the ground up. If I were in spirit and a bunch of kids, if I died in 1960 and a bunch of kids in 2015 came into my house, accused me of being immoral and some murderer or some loser, whose ghost is here, and treat me like some sort of freak in my own home, and they come in swearing, talking in the language of 2015, words and idioms that I had never heard before, with all this newfangled equipment that I've never seen, I'm going to think that they're trespassing in my home, and I'm going to think that them some sort of aliens, and I will try to get them out of my house. It's an understandable thing. But if people come in and maybe do their homework a little bit and say, well, I heard that there was a guy, Chip Reichenthal, who died in 1950, and, and maybe the community had some sort of harsh words for him, but we're not going to. Because we would love to know if he's here. We would love to know if we can bring some peace to him somehow and treat him in the fullest respect in terms of endearment and address him in the culture and the time period that he was known to live in.
See, but that's just the thing. You've got, like you mentioned, kids, they have no idea. And then you get some of these so-called professional ghost hunters who, they're the same way. They'll go in there and they're just looking for that, flashy video. They want to, hope to be the next TV stars. So they go in there and they disrespect. And sometimes when you disrespect, and I know because I lived in a apartment and this place was renovated by some friends of mine, and I promise you, it doesn't take much to get them angry. And when they get angry, they let you know they're angry. And
sure. And then they say, "See, it's all evil. I told you." But here's the deal. I mean, a lot of people are learning their craft from TV shows, and some of these TV shows are set up by producers and network to attract ratings. And in doing so, there's taunting, and they need some sort of evidence. And if they have to manufacture it or edit it in, then they'll be accused of being fraudulent. So they have to do whatever they can to get some sort of evidence week after week. And in doing so, look, I'll even admit, being nice to spirits in a paranormal setting is not great for evidence. It's wonderful if you want to try to communicate in a meaningful way with an interdimensional being. But if you need something to show for it, it's much easier to get evidence of some kind by pissing them off.
And, and that's true, because that's what I did. I knew that I wasn't alone. I knew, there was cabinet doors kind of being messed around with and stuff at night. And I wanted to know, and I didn't know nothing about it. I just learned how to do EVPs, and I said, let me go. And, well, I came down to that point where I wanted to tick them off. And it worked. They got mad.
Yep. And I'll also say this, too, and this will probably help make the point of whoever asked you about possession or whatever. I just think that most of the people that I've met in the paranormal, first and foremost, they're sweet people. The television people, the radio people, the experts, the para-celebrities, I've met a lot of them. And I don't have any ill words for any of them, because they're really sweet people. At the same time, the majority of people in this field came into the field from a place of fear. Something grabbed them when they were kids and shook them out of their own beds, the place where they expect peace and comfort and security in the privacy of their own home. Or if it wasn't them, it was somebody important to them, a parent or a sister or a younger sibling or a girlfriend or something, right. So this is how the majority of these people came to understand this process. And I think that it's more, it's not like people choose ghosts and that's their path. It's more like ghosts choose people. And because if somebody came to them in a deathbed visitation or grabbed them in a closet, in their bedroom when they were kids, well, they've come into this from a place of fear, and everything that they understand about it from that point on, in order to process all this, is based on that fear, But I came into it from a place of love, You mentioned it in introducing me, how my best friend from childhood came to me at the moment of his death in 1979. You know, on the eve of my 21st birthday, nobody told me that this was possible. In 1979, you didn't talk about that with anybody.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell my friends, you know, except the dead one. He's the only one I could tell, you know. Couldn't tell my parents. I couldn't tell people at school or at work or at church or anybody. Because you get that freak label almost automatically.
Yeah, and Chip, I find it easier to get on the mic at night and tell, you know, thousands and thousands of people about my experiences than I could at a dinner setting with my own family. Because
Sure.
Yeah, they don't want to believe it.
Yeah, and even in this day and age, here in 2015, it comes with some personal and social risk, you know, and that's why the person who sent us the email about Archons, or anybody who says, "Hey, Chip, you know, I had a personal encounter with an extraterrestrial, and for me, it was a positive encounter. It seemed like a light being. It wasn't like one of these greys or reptilians, or somebody had an abduction or whatever." I tend to at least listen very carefully to what they tell me, you know, because by them pulling me aside and asking me about it comes with some risk. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, you know, and listen to what they have. So I'm not going to blindly believe them, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt because of that, because of there's some risk there. But at the same time, I haven't met a lot of people since I've really been, you know, doing lectures or you know, now being an author with the book and appearing at all these conventions and things of that nature, that came in to this paranormal place from a loving place. I really haven't met very many people at all that shared that kind of experience coming into this. Almost everybody had something that was fearful in their past. So it's easier for them to follow the path of wisdom and learn and, you know, go out and investigate all this stuff with that in mind, with that in the back of their mind. So they will first and foremost tend to agree with things that are negative or fearful or malevolent, you know, whereas I feel like I have to scream at the top of my lungs and nobody hears me, you know. I don't get invited to a lot of these things again, or even, you know, by my friends, you know, unless I'm standing behind somebody else who was fearful in their thing, you know.
Well, you know, Chip, I've come to a point in my life where I'm not trying to convince anybody that any of this is real. They got to have their own experiences. You know, for me, I'm sharing my story for those who also had experiences, and I say, oh, well, hell, Michael's talking about it, so, you know, I'll talk about mine too. And you know, I think that a lot of them could be explained scientifically or what have you. Maybe a wind blowing or a heat vent or a leaky, airy house or whatever it might be. But then there's a small percentage that cannot be explained outside of, you know, there being another realm. And so those are the ones that interest me the most. And I tell my stories, and not because I want people to go, oh, God, now I could really believe in it. No, it's because I'm just sharing what happened. And if you don't believe me, don't believe me. I mean, I've got no reason to lie. I mean, you know, it's not, no one's got a knife to my neck. So
well, that's true. And same here. But I am swimming upstream. And let's just take solely living non-paranormal people. You know, the entertainment medium nowadays is mean-spirited. The movies, TV shows, you know, blogs, social media. You know, people like to tear down their favorite celebrities and say, oh, I hate you, you're an animal, you smell, you know, whatever. And and I just I want to be the voice of kindness, and I kind of have used the metaphysical and paranormal in order to feed that. I started in radio with on a show called Keeping the Spirits Alive, my brother John Tobin, and the show was really based on history. He found a way to make history cool by lumping it in with paranormal, and found that people were paying attention more to history, especially those who had a fascination with, ghosts and spirits and things of that nature. So I'm trying the same thing with kindness. And I find that even just solely with living, non-paranormal types of things, there's a lot of negativity out there. There's a lot of anger and frustration, where, the economy hasn't been great for the last 8 or 9 years, it's hard on folks, and there's a lot of lashing out, they feel better if they can lash out at someone. But I live in a lot of pain. I found that the one thing that really heals me is the healing of others. And that's what I try to do, and I have tied in these things. So, yeah, I'll be a little bit more stubborn, I think, than most, because I'm hoping to at least have some sort of influence in a voice of kindness, because there aren't many.
You sound like a man, Chip, who's at peace within himself.
Within myself, yes.
Yeah, it's for a fact that there's another side. You understand a lot more about it, and you don't sweat the small stuff. I mean, if you did, then you'd be more hyper, and it wouldn't be all about love. If you're one like people who watch the news every day, I mean, it's hard to get into a frequency of love when you're watching that stuff.
Oh, it really is, and and on that note, and to really hit it all home, I had a special episode last month of I got a show for the listeners here on the Dark Matter Radio Network, as you do, called "Understanding the Fringe." The subtitle: "The Kinder Side of Afterlife Sciences." I did a special. We had Steve DeShavi, again from the Dead Files, a Travel Channel TV show, The Dead Files. Bruce Tango from Ghost Hunters. It's Dave Tango's father. And Mark Keyes, who I mentioned before, who wrote that book, Chasing Shadows. And he was on a show called The Haunted on Animal Planet and Destination America channel.
I've seen them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're all police officers. Mark Keyes is the only one that is still is one, a state police detective. Bruce Tango was an Elizabeth, New Jersey police officer for more than a quarter century. And Steve DeShavi was a homicide investigator, Detective Goldshield, Manhattan North Precinct. And he was a detective for more than 20 years and a policeman for almost 30. And we talked about, because you look at all the press with police nowadays, and it's solely focused on bad cops and, people that were bad shootings, officers that acted irresponsibly in an arrest situation or a pullover situation and caught on camera. And there was so much press, so much bad press with police that they seem to forget that the majority of cops are not bad cops. The majority of cops are heroes. They risk their lives on a daily basis, handle things that most of us just couldn't deal with, in order to help others. At a personal sacrifice, a great sacrifice. They sacrifice really their social lives, their safety, their peace of mind, in order to really help us. Excuse me.
I was gonna say, the baseball player will get paid $100 million, but anyways.
Right. So we did Policemen of the Paranormal. We had a special episode, and we talked about, the paranormal, but we got, Steve DeShavi from the Dead Files, he's never had a paranormal experience in his life, even to this day, and because he's just so focused on what is actually in front of him, in his surroundings. He has an eagle eye for that sort of thing, and therefore is never really kind of relaxed enough to have some sort of thing like that happen, He's not necessarily drinking the Kool-Aid, Whereas Bruce Tango and Mark Keyes are actively in investigations and often work malevolent hauntings. And when they do that, they'll go out of their way to debunk stuff. They will go out of their way to treat these. Usually they have private cases, people that believe that they're victims of a malevolent haunting. So they will treat that like a crime scene. And they will, even when I go out and investigate things, just because I haven't had any malevolent encounters, doesn't mean that I'm automatically buying everything that happens on a potentially spiritual basis in a household setting. You can't do that. You have to be a skeptic. You have to be, there is a healthy skepticism to have. I'm more of a believer than most people, I think, but I can't blindly believe things. That's not doing my job. That's not doing my duty in a paranormal investigative setting, because people want answers. I'm old school. When I came into this, you could never, ever charge for your services if you were going to be a ghost hunter or a paranormal investigator. Right. It was all for science, And if you tried to make a buck on the side by doing it, then, you were really, people would dismiss you as any kind of good, Psychics, there are psychics that are manipulative and will really turn things to their own advantage, either to make themselves look special, but more often for the great American dollar, and people are not getting helped there except for the, it's almost a confidence scheme, and it gives the realms a bad name, and I couldn't do that. Yeah, absolutely. We have one more break we've got to take here, Chip, and let's get that break in, and then we'll come back and you and I will finish up. We'll still have about another half hour to go if you're willing, and and we'll certainly take calls if anybody would like to call in. The number is 803-317-2264. You can also call in using Skype. Our Skype ID is Late Night in the Midlands. No spaces there. And Chip, I'm going to put you on hold there for a moment. So hang in there with us. Chip, I'm going to throw you on hold there for a minute, and then we're going to bring you back right after the break. So hold on. I kind of put him on hold before I told him. I didn't want him to think I hung up. So, folks, hang in there with us. This is Late Night in the Midlands, and don't forget you can listen to us again at 9 o'clock in the morning where we run. You can also listen to us on K98 Talk. You can listen to us on High Point Radio, and you can catch us Saturday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. 12 p.m. Eastern on Dark Matter, I think it is. So, folks, we'll be back. Need your L&M fix? You can find us on social medias everywhere, like our Facebook fan page, Late Night in the Midlands, or our Facebook group, the L&M Radio Network. Our other Facebook groups, The Last Frequency. You can also find L&M on Twitter at L&M Radio, and all of this and more can be found on our website at www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. Again, that's www.latenightinthe-midlands.com, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeolove, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from theCureShop.com. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
Hey, folks. Do you love late night in the Midlands? Do you miss shows because of the time of night? Do you wish you could listen at your convenience? Well, we can help you out with that one. Become a late nighter without the late nights and subscribe. Become a late nighter for just $5 a month. That's right, $5 a month for the paranormal, the unknown, the known, but most important, the truth. Go to www.latenightinthe-midlands.com and subscribe right away to become a late nighter and help keep the LNM radio network on the air. The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. You want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthe-midlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means, inform others. Folks, we're not your average radio show. We cover everything. Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network.
It's the middle of the night, and there's nothing much to do. Bring your insomniac self over to Late Night in the Midlands and learn something. We've got every topic you can think of with very little being off limits. Alien abductions, government corruptions, the stuff that's got your sleep disrupted. Come join the conversation tales and tune in to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera.
In the Midlands, I'm Michael Vera, and I welcome you all back to the show. We've got Chip Reichenthal, who is our guest tonight. We're talking about the paranormal, touched on the ETs even here tonight. And by the way, let me correct that. That is 9 to midnight Pacific time on the Dark Matter Radio Network. It is 12 a.m. to 3 a.m. Eastern Time for Late Night in the Midlands on Saturday nights on Dark Matter. And here on the L&M Radio Network, it is 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, I think I got that right now. So with that, let's get back to things. Folks, don't forget, get over to LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Become a member. Become a late nighter. That helps us stay on the air, and we do appreciate it. By the way, coming up the rest of this week, I have tomorrow night George McClure joining us. But before George comes on, Dr. Richard Ruling is going to join us in the first half hour to give some heart health tips. Well, I take a bigger interest in that now, so he's going to come on, talk to us about the diet we can have that will reverse, that's right, reverse heart disease, will reverse diabetes. We're going to talk about that. And then following Dr. Richard Ruling, as I said, George McClure joins us. We'll be talking about, he said that the Mayan calendar meant something other than destruction. It meant a collective consciousness. I haven't felt it myself, but maybe George can help us and guide us with that one. And on Friday night, I've got David Yurth joining us. We're going to be talking about Zachariah Stitchin come Friday night. So let's get back to it with our good friend Chip. Chip, we are back, and so the paranormal, we've kind of went quite a few different places now. What I do wonder is, with some of these hauntings, I mean, why, I hear about reincarnation all the time. People come back and they have more lessons and they keep coming back. But how do you come back if you're still over there for, I don't know, hundreds of years? And I realize time is kind of our concept. But at the same time, it seems like, they're not reincarnating right away.
Well, to use that example, I know a lot of people that have practiced in mediumship who will insist in a case where there is still some remnants of someone who, let's say, died in the 1890s, and then you take into account let's just take into account, let's say that reincarnation is absolutely a thing. And, certainly they must be on next life or maybe 2 or 3 by now. These mediums will insist that there is a certain splitting that happens. If you live your lifetime as, Michael Vera, Chip Reichenthal, and and that lifetime has come to pass, and time to move on to a next one. Yet there is some remnants of us that still exist in the place that we called home for the majority of our adult lives. That doesn't mean that we haven't moved on. It just means that there is some remnants of that lifetime that still exists. And a lot of times in paranormal settings, if you think about maybe there are elements of our character that were unhappy, that maybe tend to manifest in a home setting, even though we're on to another lifetime by now. Well, there are remnants of that lifetime that might still exist or remain earthbound for whatever reason. And then there are some who say that if it is a complete earthbound type of thing and in an afterlife, and we have not crossed over, gone into the light or whatever, there's got to be some sort of reason that keeps us earthbound, and we will not reincarnate until we have come to terms with whatever that is. So there are 2 different potential things happening under that setting.
No. Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Oh, no, it certainly does.
No, I mean, I have seen, or at least it is my opinion that in some of these, sometimes the things that are communicating with us, leaving EVPs or some sort of paranormal evidence in an investigation, are maybe more remnants of an event like a murder or suicide than an actual afterlife or earthbound afterlife, if that makes any kind of sense at all. And it is the event or the energy from the event that is communicating with you. And some of that can be broken down into some elements of quantum physics, I think, even though a lot of the physicists will vehemently disagree with that. It just seems to make sense, at least to me, looking at all these things, because you think that you and I, or anybody listening that is alive, I mean, our brains are very electric. There is an electromagnetic energy, an aura, if you will, that surrounds us. And there's also liquid. There's neurochemicals, liquid chemicals that are transmitting through this electric brain. So you've got electricity and liquid and electromagnetics all at work. And they're all very conductive with each other. So if you put us in a situation where it's a life or death type of epiphany setting, somebody finds out, a woman finds out that her soldier fiance was killed in war and runs up a flight of stairs, jumps out the third-story window to their death, and maybe there's an apparition of that event returning, and manifesting over and over. And an apparition is generally more physical than a spiritual type of thing, so the apparition itself will be less inclined to communicate with you than, say, some sort of ghost type of thing that is non-apparitional. But sometimes the energy of that heavy emotion kind of leaves an imprint in the ether, much like a photograph. It's like a three-dimensional spiritual photograph of an event, because if you add an epiphany type of life or death emotional setting, it heightens that electricity, it heightens the liquid and the neurochemical transmissions, it heightens the electromagnetic aura in the surroundings and the geomagnetics of the environment around you. There's a lot of haunting settings that where there's beds of water nearby, or it's the atmosphere itself is anomalous in its electromagnetics. There's more of it, per se, than there would be on the average. And all of these things kind of tie in together to leave some sort of imprint in the environment. But it's easier for an event of that magnitude in a life or death setting to leave an imprint than it is for one particular person to do so.
So do you think that maybe if we had the right technology, we might be able to plug into Earth and actually pick up, be actually able to see history, imprints of it?
Yeah, I think so. There's this concept that I always found fascinating called the Akashic Record. There's this old horror movie called The Fury with Kirk Douglas and Amy Irving from like 1974. This kid had real psychokinetic powers, and they kidnapped him and turned him into a weapon for our U.S. defense, and he found out that he was being used, and he got really, really mad, and he started destroying all sorts of stuff, and it was up to innocent Amy Irving to save the day, and it was kind of neat. But in that film, they called it the bioplasmic universe. Every thought, every conversation, every idea, every concept of human history is in the ether somewhere and can be accessed by this Akashic Record. There are people that are very good with that sort of thing. They can tune into that. Edgar Cayce, probably the most famous example. He would tune into this Akasha through trances, and would come up with all sorts of very eerily accurate information about all sorts of things, people, ideas, concepts, everything. So I think consciousness is its own energy form. I also think, and going back to the talk of Archons, where we started this whole evening with, because there was a belief structure in place that gave a lot of weight to Archons in the same way that this writer still sees it happening, 4,015 years later. I think a lot of it is because the weight of that belief is in the atmosphere. I think if there are enough people in the world that thoroughly believe that devils or demons exist, it makes real and conscious that belief structure. So, yeah, sure, devils and demons do exist. Angels do exist. Archons exist, but everybody is different in how they process and believe each of these things. But people that are very inclined to believe in malevolence and evil are more readily available to see it and experience it because it's part of their belief structure. Our perceptions are our beliefs, and that in turn becomes our reality. But there's also a collective kind of consciousness that puts faith and good and evil and things like that into the atmosphere and makes them real. And because we are conscious, thinking humans, we can access these things. And our belief systems will give them power. And so sometimes if you see somebody that kind of swims way too much on one side or the other, toward the evil or toward the good, we have to kind of pull them down and say, maybe you're giving this stuff too much power, because if you give it the power, then it will have the power to do what it wants on you, especially if your belief system allows it to happen.
Well, that's just like a troll. I mean, you give them the time of day, give them the power, they soak it up.
Yeah, and I have seen some trollings that I think are even worse than some of the malevolent paranormal types of things that I may have seen.
Chip, I've got a guy who spends his entire life, everything is Michael Vera. We've got to destroy Michael Vera. And this poor soul, I don't know what I'll tell you. I'll say this. I would rather have to fight 5 demons than deal with this poor guy who has lost his mind somewhere. But so yeah, and sometimes it gets beyond trolling. These poor people are. That's what I mean. I mean, are they consumed? It's like I've talked about this before on this show years ago about this cyberspace and this another portal for evil. And it's like, a guy like this, maybe something happens. Maybe his electrons in his brain connect with the electrons in the internet, and he just becomes this, I don't know, it turns him over. I mean, how do you become somebody who's been very productive in life to somebody who's just, I don't know, obsessed with one person?
Well, it's a shame. It sounds like they have way too much time on their hands and maybe should fall in love or do something productive. I don't know. But I will say this, in all the talk with the paranormal and metaphysics and of evil and malintended things, it just seems that, and back to Mark Keyes, this Pennsylvania State Police detective, because I asked, as a state police detective by day and somebody that works malevolent hauntings with other law enforcement officers in their spare time, he has seen the worst in both the living and the dead. And it begs the obvious question, which do you think is worse? Where is the most evil? Is it the dead because you can't see them coming so they had the advantage on you? Or is it the living? And, he didn't even hesitate in his answer, didn't even have to think about it for more than 2 seconds, and said, without question, it's the living. That's where because he has seen living people do some of the most depraved, horrendous things. And has not seen the same thing with even on a real malevolent haunting.
I think that when you look at us being on the other side, I mean, we're already, I guess, in a sense, physically dead. So, we can't cause harm to each other, I don't think. So, and me personally, I've never had a bad experience where I've been harmed. I mean, I had where it seemed like I was attempted to be harmed, but, I wasn't actually physically harmed. But, you see in the news every day where, human beings have just, I think we're in a time now where the human race has hit its lowest point, at least, in my eyes.
Well, and that goes back to why, Chip here has to be drag kicking and screaming. Before I will stop my message, we were told, all these people that were in psychic practice back around December 21st, 2012, the Mayan calendar was expiring, and we all thought that this was going to be the end of the world. Y2K was very much the same thing because the computers couldn't passably pass from 1999 to midnight of January 1st, 2000, or because the computers weren't set up for a different century, so they were going to all shut down, and we were going to lose our banking system and our heating and all this. It's really along the line.
So these conspiracies...
They've been telling us that there's a shift coming, and people that want to be light workers and light bearers, that want to do positive things and spread positive messages are more needed now than ever before because things are changing. And they really are changing. I mean, we are giving more power to technology than anything else. And it's really changing the way we live. And it's also allowing us the technology to be able to create people. We could be the last generation of real human beings because soon, they're going to work with genomes and they're going to create smarter, better looking, more athletic people, and they can. And people in another 50 years are going to be able to choose the characteristics of their child and the sex of that child and how much sex that child has. All that stuff. But and for real, we could be the last true generation of humans, and it says a lot about the human condition. And at the same time, this technology makes us feel smarter than we really are, more social and multitask abilities than we really have. And
people have become horribly dependent on technology. And what I mean is if you ask somebody a question, they're quick to look it up. Can you imagine an EMP taking the power out? We would have, honestly, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but we would have you want to talk about dumbed down.
And at the same time, we feel more courageous for some reason, and we're turning that courage into spewing anger and hatred and pride and ego against others. Now, we are really a more mean-spirited socially now than ever before, or individually now than ever before. And so, there is a need, I think, for some folks to say, it's okay to be loving, it's okay to be nice. There are the laws of karma, dead, alive, or any other way, whether religious or not, faithful or not. There is a system of karma at work. And if you show kindness randomly to people and try to help others, without putting yourself in any risk, but, just smile at others or be complimentary of them or listen to them, help them when they have problems. Things of that kind of nature, then you find over time that, things in your own life get better. Things in your own surroundings get better. You don't need internet or technology for any of that. You can do that, in the real social world. And, I think that's why I do what I do, and that applies to dead people and living people.
All right, and Chip, we're getting down near the end here, so what I'd like to do is give you the floor to get out anything that you like. You're a busy man. You do a lot of radio shows?
Yeah, well, yeah. But right now, though, actually just down to the one at the moment, and that is the one on the Dark Matter Radio Network. It airs Monday nights each and every week from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. It's 2 hours a night, Monday night. That's 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. The show is called Understanding the Fringe, subtitled The Kinder Side of Afterlife Science, on the Dark Matter Radio Network, which is darkmatterradio.net, each and every Monday night. I do have the book out. Even the Dead Won't Tell You the Truth is the name of the book. It's a fictional murder mystery, and it actually is kind of a way that I can talk about my experiences firsthand when I worked in spirit mediumship. But I kind of, instead of making it a whole nonfiction book, I turned it into kind of an entertainment piece. It's a murder mystery, but it also includes first-person perspectives of mediumship. Even the Dead Won't Tell You the Truth, available from Rowe Publishing, ROWE, at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It's on Facebook, facebook.com/eventhedead. And I'm working on a sequel. It's called Even the Dead Kill Time. And it's actually a little dark for a Chip Reichenthal thing, you know. It's a sequel, and some of the relationships that came about in the first book are going to be strained in the second. And there's where the first book was more talking to the dead than anything. The second one will deal with ghosts and a paranormal setting and extraterrestrials, schizophrenia. It has it all, I tell you. And that should be done, I'm hoping, beginning of October. And I'm going to work on a nonfiction book called The Kinder Side of Afterlife Science. Because, you know, it's basically what I was using as my lecture circuit when I was doing lectures. And I will have some more lectures coming up. But my wife has some health issues. We're kind of staying close to home and taking care of her. She's always taking care of me. So, you know, it's my turn to take care of her. But we'll be back on the lecture circuit in October.
All right. Well, Chip, God bless you and your wife, and I hope for the best for you all, and prayers. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to ask you what's going on, but you're a good man. That's all I can say, and I appreciate having you on the show, and I hope you'll keep doing what you're doing, because I love listening to you.
Well, thank you, brother, and I love listening to you, and I love you, and it's always a great honor and privilege to be here on Late Night in the Midlands with you, and you know, it's always a beautiful thing. Thank you for enhancing my life again, brother, by having me on.
Well, thank you, Chip, and stay safe, my friend.
You too, buddy.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody, Chip Reichenthal, and haven't had him on in a while, so I thought, what the heck, I got an email about these Archons, and I thought, why not bring my most paranormal guest on the show for that, to talk about it. You know, something we haven't done here in a while that we need to do is, I think soon is a psychic night. But there, you know, I haven't done it for a couple of reasons. One of them is, you know, we do have nights like that. We want to make sure we get the calls too. Some nights we get a lot of calls, but you know, sometimes it could be like open lines. We like to do that too. A little tough to do if we don't get the calls. So, you know, people start getting involved, and we'll start doing more of that. Interesting stuff with Chip. And, you know, I wish I could be as chippy as he is. I do about things. I you know, for me, it's hard for me to say that evil don't exist, and I'm not sure he said that it don't. He just don't look at it that way, because for my experience, and this will be, matter of fact, I just got done speaking with a couple of the producers over there with A&E. We just signed the final forms to, you know, there's a lot of things that go into it before they'll they can cover your story on these TV shows because, they want to make sure everybody involved that nobody's going to say, hey, you didn't have permission to use me and then get sued. So we've got all that technical legal stuff out of the way, and they're beginning the reenactment. So they're going to actually have actors playing myself and my daughter and my son, and they're going to tell our story. And I'll tell you, it's true, folks. It really is true, this apartment, and this is really why I believe in evil. When it comes to human beings, they could be so rotten. They could be so great, too, but they could be so rotten, and I don't know if that's just bad wiring, but when it comes to, like, what I experienced, I don't know what to call it. They say, well, it could just, there was a little girl involved. This little girl, she's the one that told me, so who cares, she said. Well, they tried burning this place down with me in it, and, they took the blinds from the window and they put them on the heater and they melting. And what else would you call that? In my opinion, based on the evidence at hand, they were trying to start a fire. I don't know. If you're trying to scare me, there's other ways to go about it. Putting plastic on a hot heater tells me you're trying to cause harm. So, and in this little girl, and then there was this man, and this little girl, and when people tell me about demons and how they'll try to pretend that they're children and things, I just can't imagine there being a 5 or 6-year-old child or a 4-year-old child or anything like that on the other side wanting to kill somebody. And so I don't know what exactly I was dealing with in that place, but I can assure you folks, and my kids can attest to you, it was 100% real, and it was not friendly. And so, it's one thing to throw a horseshoe or to knock a picture off the wall or to open and close cabinet doors. That's one thing. But when you start trying to start fires and come to find out that's the way you died, and now you want to take somebody, that's a little rough. And, I'm thankful that the night or the morning or whatever that they tried to start the place on fire, it was morning time. I'm thankful that they chose a night when my kids were not there. But nevertheless, it was an attempt. And I've played the EVP on the air where little girl says, so who cares? And anyways, A&E is going to be running that soon. And when they do, I'll get a copy and I'll make sure it's up on the website for everybody. I'll get permission from them to do it. I should be able to. I'm in it. But they interview me in this, and I tell the story, and then they've got people who are going to reenact it. And, will they put it a little out of the ordinary? Maybe. I don't know. If they do, I'll let you know. For sure, but it was everything I said it was. There was literally, folks, these blinds would come up off the window. Eye level, off the windowsill, straight up in the air, and they would slam back down into the wall. And sometimes they would do this, 15, 20 times in a row before they just stopped. I don't know, just stopped. You tell me what that is. We didn't have heat blowing, fans blowing or anything, and if we did, it certainly wouldn't have blew them like that. That was like tornado strength. And it's not like we got blown by any wind or anything. These things just literally levitated up into the air and slammed to the windowsills. And so when people tell me it's all in your mind, there's no such thing as ghost in the other side. When people tell me that, I feel sorry for them, because I'm here to tell you there is another side, and it's very real. It's very, very real. And then the encounter I had with my mother coming to visit me, very real. And the reason I know is because of things I was told that came true later. So very real. These things, I can't prove it to you, and I'm not going to try to. I'm just going to tell you that, it's real. And one day, I hope that you all have your own experience, not quite like mine, but your own experience, and that you will see with your own eyes that this stuff is real, and that this isn't it. This physical body's not it. Thank God this isn't it. But nevertheless, I'm enjoying running around in this meat suit right now, and I want to keep doing that, at least for the time being. Folks, I think that's going to about do it for us. Remember the website, www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, inform others. Tomorrow night, we've got George McClure. We've got, in the early part of the show, Richard Ruling. That's Dr. Richard Ruling. So don't miss it tomorrow night, folks. Keep your eyes posted to the sky because you never know what you might see. Keep your ears posted to this broadcast because you never know what you might learn. And for Ira, who is our station manager, and Jolene, my webmaster, our webmaster, they do fantastic work, and it wouldn't be the same without them. I thank you. Of course, our moderators and everybody else listening here on the L&M Radio Network, on the Dark Matter Radio Network, on High Point Radio, and K98 Talk. Good night, everybody. We'll be back with you tomorrow night.
The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.